Hi, welcome to Watcher DM. I'm Gabriel. Today I am going to be doing a flip through and review of Cursed Scroll Shadowdark Zine Volume 1, Diablerie. As it says here, it's got spells, monsters, adventure, witches, warlocks, and cursed knights. Man, that marketing text though. On the back of all these books are different tables, usable tables. So, and this one has diabolical treasures, which is super fun. Very flavorful ideas packed onto the back here. A collection of ideas for Shadowdark RPG. Before I go any further, I'd like to ask you to like this video if you like these kinds of videos. It helps with the algorithm, and hit the bell icon and subscribe if you want to be notified when new videos like these come out. It'll be every Tuesday. All right, let's dig in. So, you're going to see this repeatedly because I'm doing the rest of the series. I've run all of these in some capacity, and I'm finally getting around to shooting the flip through review. I'm going to turn this sideways so we can kind of see how this is intended to be seen. They have a nice sized hex crawl here. So basically 10 by 16, 10 by 17, I guess. Row column hex crawl, where each hex is 2 miles. I think all told, it has around 20 locations kind of pinned out on it. It might be a few more, might be a few less. But the art on these maps is awesome as always. And yeah, some really cool design considerations here that are kind of hard to see on the surface. One of the reasons is like, because the map is here and it's keyed to locations, but the actual locations aren't described anywhere nearby. You basically need to go to the section where the places are described to kind of figure out what each thing is. Although the art can help, it's still a little tricky. So yeah, it's worth maybe printing this out and having the text nearby so you can kind of stitch together what's happening, because I think the geography of this place is super interesting. Then, on the bottom half of this spread, you get the Gloaming. This is your introduction. They're all miniature hex crawls, all three of the original Cursed Scroll Zines. And you get your rumors table. It's a D10 table, very nice. You get your encounters per zone. So if you're in a forest, you'll roll and look up forest. If you're in a marsh, you'll roll and look up marsh. And then from this, you'll roll on this table. So you'll basically roll 2d8 to get your encounter. And I really like this way of doing it. I think it's pretty effective. Also, they mark here that star is new monsters, so they tell you where to find those. It tells you where to go for the Gloaming's hex key, which starts on page 39. And then if it has, knights here, it says, oh, these are knights of St. Ydris. And then, yeah, there's a secret traitor potentially among them, which is pretty cool. All right, let's go back into normal size. Of course, we have our legal stuff here. I love these side. The trade dress on these is so good. I could be wrong, but I think Runehammer did those. They're just so pretty. Yeah, it's this stuff too. So cool. Well organized. Table of contents. Great introduction by Kelsey. Written in 2021. December of 2021. Can you believe it's been 4 years? I think this is supposed to be a wizard casting a fire spell of some stripe, but it looks to me like he's lighting a cigarette. Fear is a knife that lives in the hearts of all mortals. I shall teach you to pluck it out and wield it. The Willowman to a petitioner. So these are the character classes presented. I think my partner played a Knight of St. Ydris, which was super fun. It was very interesting to engage with because it doesn't really feel the same as a normal fighting class. It's not very much a melee. Like, despite being able to use all weapons and armor, they definitely have spellcasting capabilities that are pretty weird. And definitely, I think, played a bigger role in our playthrough. At least conceptually. Yeah. Then you've got the Warlock class. This involves associating with a patron who can give you boons. I think our kind of backup, like our second character in our playthrough, was a warlock and was basically tagging along with the Knight of St. Ydris to get close to Mugdulblub and be able to ask for the favor. So they were trying to become a warlock of whose patron was Mugdulblub. Mugdulblub, Mugdulblub. That happened a lot at the table. A very chantable name. Congratulations, Kelsey. And then we get the Witch class, which is another spellcasting class, with a whole new raft of spells, which is awesome. I always love having new spells. Also, a whole new mishaps table. So, spellcasting in Shadowdark on a 1, you roll on a mishaps for the spell type you're using, or I think in the case of a priest, you become you need to atone. So it's cool that they introduced that for this class as well. Yeah, I don't think there's a ton to say here, except that you do get a familiar as a witch, which is pretty cool. I think by and large, this game resists having henchmen or hirelings or anything like that. So it was cool to see them kind of give that a little nod without being overpowered or broken. You get your titles, as always, and then you get a nice section on the patrons. This talks about all the different patrons that are available in the Gloaming, and then these are their boons. So as you're getting your warlock levels, or you're getting different boons from the different patrons, you roll on this to get what those are, which is great. I think it's really, really fun. Then you get some diabolical backgrounds. These are backgrounds kind of specific to the world of the Gloaming, which is awesome. Always nice to have. And then we talk about magic. So these are the diabolical mishaps I was talking about. And these are your witch spells. I think there are 8 tier 5 spells and tier 4 spells. And then there are 10 of the prior level spells. So if you're getting random spells, you'll need a D10 and a D8 for the different levels for this class. It's a little weird, but whatever. I think it's also kind of a call out to like, you can make up spells for these classes, just it's helpful if they land at a number that is rollable on a die, so you can randomize the acquisition of spells. We go into the spell descriptions. Again, you're going to find some pretty common themes here. Amazing art, punchy text, very clear usage, adherence to declarations that involve the rules, so using near, close, far, etc. But no bloat, not a lot of that stuff in 5e where it's like, if this is the case and that is the case, and you do this thing 3 times, like none of that. It's just very, very clear what you have to do. I think Dreamwalk is one of my favorite high-level witch spells. And yeah, you just get some nice little splash art in here. Mother of Night. Obviously named for the doors. And yeah, you get your polymorph spell here. Puppet, scrying, pin doll, poison. Amazing. Speak with Dead is interesting here. As is Swarm. Yeah, Soldier. Goddamn. Yeah, the witch spells in this are kind of great. It's almost too bad like more spellcasters can't cast it. And the Willowman is a spell, tier 1 spell you can cast. Void Stare. Man, such cool stuff. Alright, then we get into the Gloaming. These are the hex keys. Again, remember what I was saying earlier about how having these next to the map is really, really useful. Since I can't go back and forth, you just have to kind of take it all in and go, yeah, it's great. Like, these are punchy. You can get a lot of these on a page. That's very, very useful. Some of these are kind of built around specific NPCs. So if you're going to run this, which in my case, I ran a small hex crawl, and then I ran the adventure towards the back. I would probably spend a little bit of time kind of determining how you want these NPCs to act and interact. I think I made Trizilla pretty... she was mercurial to me, so I don't think I did a very good job of executing roleplay of her. Whereas Alana, the tavern owner, I had a great time running her. I was like, yeah, this is a single mom running around with, all these kids, because her husband, Carlin, is bedridden with Drusilla's rot fever. So Yeah, I felt like that worked pretty well. And then, yeah, here you've got Bittermold Keep. This is where the dungeon is. There's a lot going on in this place. So, you're going to want to soak all this in and, just really be ready for your party to go anywhere. If you like this and you want to kind of see how it can work, you might check out the Glass Cannon Network, who's been doing actual plays of this setting, and they're being pretty truthful, like pretty accurate to the work here. So I think it's a good example. We get into monsters. So these are the monster stat blocks for the whole book. So these are new monsters. We fought a marrow fiend in another. We were playing in a West Marches game, and we ran into a couple of one of those in that game. The mutant catfish showed up in, as did the howlers in the playthrough that I did with my partner, and I think tarbats did as well. These things are annoying as hell. Really, really cool idea. They pissed us off. It was great. And then you get your first level adventure, the Hideous Halls of Mugdulblub. Mugdulblub, Mugdulblub. And, yeah. Again, this one, okay, so pretty much all of these have this characteristic where, like, oh, the map of the dungeon is at the back, which is awesome. That's great. But also, I now need to flip right between, like, it's not possible for me to run this like from one page. Totally understandable. I get that. But that just means you're going to want to print this out or have this on a separate, thing, so you can very easily be using the book, right, to have the thing open with your notes and have the map so you can be tracking what's going on. The map in this case is really interesting. There's a lot to love about this map. In fact, I think I'm just going to start with the map. But, like, let's talk a little bit about the beginning. So this is set up with, like, 4 different factions in it. The Bittermolds, the Howlers, the Vengeful Catfish, and Mugdulblub. How those factions interact and how they interact with the party is a big part of this adventure. So a lot of this is going to be finding out how your PCs want to engage with these factions as they run into them, and how easily these different factions are swayed by your PC's behavior. Like, if they come in and are like, no, we're peaceful, we're on your side, like, how believable are they? Do they seem like the kind of people that the halfling cannibals would be down with? I don't know. You got to figure that out. So it's something to think about. The rumors here are useful. Bittermold Keep is described in a couple of stanzas that I think are pretty effective. Alicia went in through the Cold River entrance on the hill's south face, which meant that she ran into some mutant catfish, like, right out the gate. And we'll get into why this place is interesting in a minute. And then it talks a little bit about the order of battle. This is challenging. This is actually really, really hard as a DM to kind of keep hold of in your head, like, what's happening in the dungeon has an impact. Like, it tries to articulate how the players engaging with certain factions in certain places cause other things to happen. That's just really hard to keep in your mind when your party's trying to, like, go through a dungeon. It's just challenging. Not impossible, and I think it's well presented, but it is a challenge. And then we go into the areas. So it talks about the danger level, it talks about the light, and it tells you the totals. So these are the total number of monsters of each type that are in this dungeon. Now, I did not keep rigorous track when I ran this, but that's also because my partner is notoriously averse to combat. So, like, there was no chance she was going to get through 35 howlers and 30 bitter molds and 28 mutant catfish. So I wasn't that worried about it. But you might want to keep a tally and just kind of check every once in a while how close they are to exhausting the population of a thing, especially if you're rolling lots of random encounters. I have a knack for failing to roll random encounters. I can roll a d6 all day and never hit a 1. It's great. So it's kind of interesting that this starts here at 1, right? So 1 is the entry hall, which is way up here. But the secondary entrance, where my partner started, is here in 23, River Outflow, which is way down here. And Mugdulblub is here, like, literally next to where she started. And the only thing that made this adventure work at all was that she went the other way. And she just went the long way around until she got back here, which was hilarious and fun. And maybe she would have gone that way anyway once she saw Mugdulblub. But it was very interesting having that go down. But I am going to kind of go through this as you would through the main thing. There's a pretty nasty trap here in the memorial chamber that's really fun because the way it's telegraphed is really interesting. And it's way nastier than a pit trap. Like, you'd expect it to be a pit trap. It's not. It's way worse. The pipe organ vault was fun. Yeah, like, it depends on what you play. So, yeah, it's just really interesting. Like, you can play the organ here, and it does a thing. I don't know. I don't know that that's... Yeah, I think it works fine. It was super fun. The Howler Camp was difficult to roleplay, but I think worked pretty well. Although, ultimately, the party ended up reading the Six Pillars, which did some stuff. So they had to deal with some hexlings. But they got the Howlers on their side, so they ended up kind of moving with the Howlers through the dungeon later on. The Compass Rose Hall was really, really cool, but the Wrathbolt dagger, the +1 dagger, was literally dropped Alicia's character like immediately. It does a D100 damage to anyone who tries to take it from the previous possessor, dead or alive. So there's plenty of clues that something bad will happen if you touch this thing, but it's also a magical dagger. So as soon as you touch it, like, something terrible happens. There's kind of, I don't know if there's an amazing way to, like, yeah, do that without that happening. Fortunately, she had her secondary character hanging out, and he was able to run around and find. So what he did was he stood on the compass rose and said, "Where's a healing potion?" Or "Where's, some kind of healing potion?" And it pointed towards the ancient fountains. And so she went over and saw the two fountains, and that kind of forced the choice between which fountain to choose from. So there was a lot of interesting decision making going on throughout this whole dungeon. Very well designed in that regard. Still super, super challenging. Really kind of a fuck you. It was great. The Ashes Chamber was dope. The skeleton followed her around for a while and did stuff. It was awesome. She never really got through the burrow holes. I think convincing your party to go reaching into holes and deal with stuff on the off chance that there's treasure in there is pretty hard. But she did it once, and then she was like, "Yeah, there's gross oozes in there. Fuck that." And then you got some Howler guards down here in 9. I think this is actually where she met. Yeah, she met the first Howlers because she was coming out of this room. So 8 through the skeletons here in 11. So skeleton guards in 10 and 11 are basically hiding behind little arrow slits and firing into the halls. The ruby chips in their eyes are worth money, so that was good. And then the meteorite room is 12. This is where most of the Howlers died. Alicia sprung the trap, and they all kind of got stuck in the thing because they were pulling out all the rocks. And yeah, she managed to avoid dying to it, but yeah, this was a backup plan for how to get rid of Mugdulblub. Stalactite Cavern. Yeah, this place has that quicksand trap. And then there's the gold catfish back here. I don't remember. I don't think Alicia interacted with it any more than asking it a question. It wanted some money for an answer, and so it answered, and that was kind of it. And then you go up into this section where there's some steaming stalagmites, and yeah, there's some cave pearls rattling around, and just really great world building stuff. I love that they have the sound steam stalagmites. I don't think this is how they do this type of description anymore. They kind of do a more Joseph R. Lewis style method of prose, which I do like better, but I think this was a great instinct to kind of try, right? This was something to give it a whack. Resonant Cave, you had tarbats. She threw the torch. She was like, "Nope, not dealing with those. Throw the torch in the ground." You got a time flux chamber here, which I don't think she engaged with any of the any of the time flux stuff. She kind of saw it working, was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. So she bounced. She kind of bypassed the gelatinous cube as well. There's a great little gelatinous cube here. Empty prison cell and the jellified remains were interesting. And yeah, I think they're well described. And they're pretty messed up, but they were fun. They worked. And then there's Howler prisoners over here with the bitter molds, which, yeah, this was a little hard to reconcile once we were kind of farther in. But I basically just, like, they didn't notice her scooting by, so they didn't bother her with it. And then you get Mugdulblub's Hall, where she went and negotiated with Mugdulblub and became a warlock of Mugdulblub with her little warlock nerd. Back to the river outflow. I think she ended up getting information about the illusory wall and going back there to get some treasure. The Bittermold family tomb. Yeah, she poured the coughing stuff into Reginald's mouth and caused him to cough up the cloven heart, which was great. There's a tooth pillar in 26. So this is a little bit weird. So like 23, 24, 25, 26. So 26, 27, 28, and 29 were all things that she did kind of at the beginning of her playthrough. So she interacted with all this stuff first. So the Bittermold hovels, a shrine to Mugdulblub, Plogrina's Bittermold cave. And then she was like, oh yeah, no, I'll totally help you guys get Mugdulblub. And crossed her fingers. It was great. The central cavern, I think there were some... Oh, maybe it's not here. Contested cave. One of these has the... Oh, maybe I rolled it was a random encounter. There were tarbats that attacked her and almost killed her. She freaked out. Never got up to the catfish pool. Never got up to the magical rock. But pretty much got through the rest of the dungeon. And yeah, just had a blast. Really, really fun. Huge dungeon, honestly. For 33 rooms for a dungeon. I think it took us a couple of sessions to kind of clear. We do pretty short sessions when we duet, but it worked really, really well. And then, of course, Join the Dark. So you get some, calls to action to go get more Shadowdark stuff and go support Kelsey and all the fine folks over at Arcane Library. So yeah. That is my flip through and review of the Cursed Scroll 1, the Gloaming. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, I hope you hit the like button, hit the subscribe and bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos like these come out. Also, if you want to get early access to these types of videos, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/watcherdm. And 2 squirts and a cup of coffee, as they say, will get you early access. I put these out a week early for patrons. Thanks so much for hanging out, and thanks for playing.